Guys, it is Halloween. As of the recording of this, it is Halloween, and there's some new information regarding Jeffrey Epstein. And man, how could we not talk about this? This should come as a surprise to absolutely nobody. This is, I mean, we've talked about this on the show before. The whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. You're watching it, and you're just like, "There's no way. There's no way." There's nothing more to this. There's no way this guy who was equipped with basically nothing except for the clothes on his body managed to hang himself. Nobody knows this. He was on some high scrutinizing watch, yet for some reason, the most famous prisoner in the world, pretty much. One of the most talked about stories. This guy who had so many assets, it was unbelievable. For some reason, only these incredibly tired, overworked people were watching him. Just them, nobody else. He was randomly taken off suicide watch for no apparent reason, and then he pulled it off in his cell with basically nothing at his disposal. That was the story we were told. And we're supposed to just shut up and take it and not question it. And if you do question it, well, they're going to try to suppress you every way they can. I guarantee this stream is already demonetized. I promise you. It is demonetized right now. But here's something. And of course, you have to go to a foreign outlet to see this. The corporate media in the United States barely talking about this, if at all. But hanging does not cause these broken bones. Epstein's injuries are more consistent with homicide, a noted pathologist says. And this is from yesterday, as of the recording of this. So this was on October 30th. Jeffrey Epstein's injuries suggest his death was more likely to have been a homicide than a suicide, to the surprise of nobody. According to New York City's former chief medical examiner, hired by Epstein's brother to observe the sex offender's autopsy. Dr. Michael Baden told Fox News the wounds on Epstein's body are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation. The pathologist added that he had not seen such wounds in a hanging case in his 50 years of professional experience. I need a sip of coffee for that, don't you? Don't you? Hanging does not cause these broken bones, and homicide does, Baden insisted. A huge amount of pressure was applied. The official report from the New York City medical examiner into the financier's death found that he died by hanging in his jail cell. The official line has been disputed since the news first broke, sparking a wide variety of conspiracy theories given Epstein's high-profile political connections, which reportedly include the Clintons, the current U.S. President Donald Trump, and British royalty. It's 80 days now, and the brother feels like he is getting a runaround, Baden told Fox. He thinks that his brother wasn't the type to commit suicide, but he wants to get the information he hasn't been able to get so far. The city's chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, who ruled Epstein's death a suicide on August 10th, vehemently disputes Baden's determination. Well, of course she does. She ruled it a suicide. Some online commentators also took issue with Baden being cited as a credible source, given his own checkered past when employed by medical examiners' offices. He was allegedly dismissed by the New York City office in 1979 for poor record keeping and overall performance. All right, so I don't know a ton about this guy's past. Well, let's see what they're saying when they say his own checkered past. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, so here's what they're referring to when they bring up this guy's checkered past. We'll take a look into this. So this goes back to 1982, and this is from the New York Times. All right, this is a digitized version of an article. Cool. Dr. Michael M. Baden was ordered dismissed today as chief deputy medical examiner of Suffolk County after a magazine quoted him as giving what the county executive called advice on how to kill people. Okay, the county executive Peter F. Cohan said he had the authority to dismiss Dr. Baden because the forensic pathologist had not yet been permanently appointed. Dr. Baden has held the $53,557 a year post for less than a year. I guess in 82, that was significantly more than it is now. That's why they mentioned the salary. Obviously, that went a lot further in 1982 than it does today. What the exact translation numbers are, I don't know off the top of my head, but Dr. Baden was not formally dismissed today because county aides said they needed time to check civil service laws and decide whether a public hearing must be held or written charges filed in conjunction with the removal. Dr. Baden denied late this evening that he had been interviewed by We Magazine. I didn't say anything about how to commit the perfect murder. Okay, so it looks like this guy has some history. How credible? I mean, that seems like sort of a, what their motivations were for doing that to him. I don't know. It seems a bit weird. They're saying, oh, he gave advice on how to kill people. He denies doing it. Just kind of seems like a weird situation. And who knows? Maybe he was rocking the boat back then too. I don't know a ton about this guy's history. But what I do know is there are so many inconsistencies in the Jeffrey Epstein case. And of course, someone who just said, yeah, it's a suicide, they're going to dismiss anything that comes to the surface that would dispute that, obviously. But this is a very common thing where they rush to judgment. They want to rule something right away. And anything that says, hey, there's a little more to this, it gets written off. And if you question the official narrative, that's some kind of conspiracy theory, despite how grossly unbelievable the official narrative is. Am I saying I know the answer? Absolutely not. I don't know the answer. I don't know what exactly happened to Jeffrey Epstein. But one thing I can say with a lot of confidence, and I think even the most rigid of person when it comes to questioning official narratives, even the most rigid of person has some questions when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, this is our generation's JFK in so many ways. I'm not trying to compare him as an individual to JFK. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just saying as far as the official story versus all of the factors going on where you're like, wait a second, I don't think there's any way. I mean, I can count on one hand how many people I know personally, and I'm sure we all can, how many people accept the official JFK story. I literally know one person, and I had to make the effort to meet them. Like it was like JFK was in topic, and I was like, I don't know anybody who buys the official JFK story and thinks there's nothing else to this. And one of my friends who was there was like, I do. And I'm like, you think there's nothing else going on? And even he was kind of like, well, man, I don't know, and so that's what I mean when I say in many ways, this is our JFK. So here you go. Here's another account by a medical professional who was sought out by the family, who's saying, no, these injuries, I've never seen injuries like this in a suicide. And now this person, despite what checkered past they may or may not have, they've probably seen some suicides before. And they're saying that not only are these injuries not consistent with a suicide, these injuries are not consistent with a suicide from a person who presumably had the tools at their disposal to commit suicide. You know what I mean? Like this guy was in a cell, pretty much armed with his clothes and I guess the bed, and that was it. So he's saying even people, when he's seen suicides in the past who have had rope and, had tested out the weight for their hanging or whatever else it may be, even those people don't have injuries consistent with what he saw on Jeffrey Epstein. So, and again, you can't talk about this stuff. You can't talk about this stuff, or you get called all kinds of names. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're this, you're that. I guarantee this stream is already demonetized. I promise you. But I don't know if we'll ever really know what exactly happened. I don't know if we'll ever really know. I'd like to think we will, but it's tough to say.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron. Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your